listening to the Racing Virginia podcast. Now, here are your hosts.
I'm Dave C.
And I am Brandon Brown.
And with us today, an old friend,
Vaughan Crittenden.
Hot dog.
Hey, welcome back, buddy.
Lord have mercy. I called him. I said, hey, you want to talk about 2021 and 2020? He goes, yeah, I'll come in. I went, damn it. Just kidding, buddy.
Yeah, sure you
we love you.
are.
We love you. First of all, there's really no big news out there.
No. We got one. Truck
What?
Series schedule came out last
That's
week.
right. Two dirt races, too.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I
Bristol Dirt, and they're going to Knoxville.
Yeah. I just got to wonder in the back of my head what Tony is thinking.
We had talked about, well, here's the thing. He's got his own racing series now.
That's true. He probably filled that date with one of his own.
So it was interesting. I loved Eldora, but I went there twice for the Truck Series race, and it was such a good time each time that I went. But good things do come to an end, and changes happen, and they're going to Knoxville, which my buddy who used to work for the World of Outlaws, he's too excited about it.
Well, I will tell you this: they know how to prep a track.
Yep.
That is for sure. And it's going to be a little bit of a different race because Knoxville is rather flat.
Yep. So it'll be interesting because Eldora's got a bit of banking to it. It's pretty wide. So, yeah, it should be fun. I mean, they're probably going to be knocking the hell out of each other in the Truck Series race, I would think.
Probably.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Vaughn, what are your thoughts about Bristol and dirt?
I think it's a brilliant move, to be honest with you. Everyone, was raising a fuss back when they made that announcement that they were going to be doing dirt in the spring. And, you can't do that. We only get Bristol twice a year. Why do you want to wreck it one time with dirt? And then, gosh, I'm trying to remember who posted a photo online of the spring race crowd. And I said, well, that's why.
Yeah, exactly. They had to do something to re-energize the spring race. The fall race, the night race always gets a great crowd. But to your point, they had to do something.
Yeah, they had to. And as in that promoter role, you've got to find ways to keep things from getting stale. And luckily, the product they have for that fall race kind of takes care of that itself. But yeah, the spring race was kind of forgotten and behind the shadow of that fall event. And they needed to make the change. I think it's a great one. I think it solved a lot of the issues that everyone always brought up for why dirt couldn't happen in Cup yet. And it was mainly due to the facility, crowd capacity, all those other amenities that a track needs to host a big-time event. And really, the only track I ever considered that would have the possibility to do that was Knoxville. Mm-hmm. So it is interesting to see that both those are on the schedule for next year. And, fun fact, Langley was rumored to be on the truck schedule at one point.
Oh, man. Why isn't it? We would have loved to seen the trucks at Langley.
No, it was actually kind of funny watching that happen. Right when we were getting ready to announce our schedule, I put out a quick teaser video. Mm-hmm. And
I remember, yeah.
Really wasn't much to it. It was just kind of some cold beat music, said the future's coming. And the very last frame of the video, I put 10-1, which was just going to be the date the schedule came out. Well, I went to bed that night, and I woke up the next morning, and suddenly out of the blue, everyone's talking about this rumored truck event at Langley. And my favorite part was someone actually tweeted, yeah, I have from a very reliable source, they had a private truck test there. This is happening. All these things. And I'm just laughing really hard.
You can confirm there was not a private truck test.
I can confirm there was never a phone call, a text, or even a tweet.
Well, and unfortunately, unless NASCAR does something, they're not going to go backwards. They're not going to go back to short track. They're going to keep them on the bigger tracks. Personally, I think the trucks ought to be going back to South Boston, Langley, Motor Mile.
I think they will. I really think actually you're actually seeing them do a little bit of that backstep with places like Knoxville getting an event when Eldora got an event, because in regards to the type of facilities and the type of places they've been going to in the past, that is the step back to it's just a racetrack known for being a racetrack. It's not the area they're trying to go into. So I actually think we're on that path. It's a slow path because at the same time, there are modern amenities that racetracks need to make this work. I know my list at Langley of things I would need to put in place before I could even consider that.
You'd have to have an infield care center.
Yep.
Well,
Because that's what Tony had to put in an infield care center and press center.
Yeah, tell us the things that, like, your short list of things that you would need if you would want to have a truck, Xfinity, so on race.
So for me, right off the bat, I would actually say lighting and a catch fence.
Okay.
I believe Langley is a flat enough track and slow enough that they would probably not mandate safer barriers for us because, frankly, they wouldn't work at the speeds that the trucks will be getting there, so they're null and void. The other thing would be, really crowd-wise, I think we're okay where we're at right now. We have the option of adding roughly about 1,000 seats in turns 3 and 4 if we needed to. We've looked at that before for other events. We did it kind of, sort of, for the Denny Hamlin Short Track Showdown a couple years ago. So I really feel like, crowd-wise, you're good. The other big thing is a sponsor.
You'd have to have a pretty big one.
You'd have to have a big sponsor. Outside of those things, depending on how long you were planning to do this, I feel like you'd be okay.
Yeah, I don't think a $10,000 to win. I mean, $10,000 sponsorship would be enough. You'd have
absolutely not.
You'd be in the 25 to 50.
Yeah, you would need that. And then, as for things like an infield care center and press, the press thing's easy. You can do temporary press for anything, especially if you do it during the right time of year. You can basically just, pop up a tent, make sure it has, internet connections and power and all that. And you're pretty good because normally, if you're doing a truck show, it's a one-day show. You don't need to have this huge structure for the press. As for the infield care center, there's a ton of mobile units out there for those types of things that you could put in place for a one-time event. Plus, we have major hospitals. We have 2 major hospitals less than 5 miles from the racetrack.
Yeah, but I remember what Tony was required to do. And granted, he doesn't have a hospital right down the street either. So.
Right.
So, it all depends. You never know.
It is a goal of mine. It is a goal of mine.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of anything right down the street from Eldora.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this. I myself would like to see a truck race at our track. I think that track would be good for them.
And I think you guys at the moment are better positioned for that when it comes to those facility things like I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, we'd have to do a few things, but yeah.
A few things, but you're a little bit closer than I am.
Yeah, the lights are pretty good.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing.
and the catch fence is.
Well, because the TV thing that's massive for it.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, we have a great show. We really do. We got Vaughan.
Yeah.
This, by the way, I'm going to name this our Friendsgiving edition.
Friendsgiving edition. You put that name on it. All right.
Yeah.
Friendsgiving edition. That's the name of the show.
Yeah, that's the name of it.
It's done. I can do the
coming up.
graphics right now. I'll just work on them as we're talking.
I don't anymore.
We're going to have Tyler Crossnoe.
Yep.
From VMP. We talk about him every week anyway. Yeah. So we're going to talk to him about.
You talk about how I'm a fanboy of Denny Hamlin now. Yeah. You're a Tyler Crossnoe fanboy.
Only because I have the amount of work he puts in is I never knew the amount that you had to put in just to get a. I thought dirt track was bad. Drag racing,
prepping a drag strip is hard work, brother.
Hard work. Oh my God! I don't know if I know. Shoosh, that is tough. But yeah, I just like how he put. He's pretty Johnny on the spot with his social media. I love. Does a good job. I like to give, and I've talked about Vaughan.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've said what we even in troubling times, Vaughan, we feel like you were handed. At first everybody's going, oh yeah, this guy's gonna have we got a young promoter, and then you were handed a handful of poop.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to put it. I would go with a more than a handful, but
a bucket full.
Wheelbarrow.
Yeah, a wheelbarrow, a dump truck, the whole manure pile right on Bit Tan and all of it.
Tanker, what have you.
As excited as you were going into 2020, how do you feel at the end of 2020?
That's actually a very interesting question. Obviously I went into it, full steam ahead. We had our day of destruction in the beginning of March.
And the only full.
That was the only full one we had all year.
Wow.
And frankly, financially, I'm really glad we got it in.
Yeah.
But, it was interesting, right? Honestly, in the beginning, right after I got over the initial disappointment of having to postpone the season, because really, as you were going through it, you didn't know how long it was going to be. remember everything started off at 2 weeks. Remember that? And I'm sitting there going like, well, we can cancel the first 2 weeks. That's like, 2 rainouts.
What is it? It's November 24th.
Yeah. Let's not get into that part.
It's still going.
But in the beginning, it wasn't that bad. And then basically it was right around the time that NASCAR did their first 8-week cancellation. That was when I really started to realize, okay, this one's in for the long haul. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, it gave me time to really kind of put some things in place that I wanted to have for the season that I didn't have the time in the beginning. So there was a blessing in that. And then, once we got to opening night, I was pretty happy. I had a lot of time to do some learning before that. We had 3 or 4 open practices, so the track had been active. But obviously when July 11th came around and we lost Sean, that was when it really kind of took a different turn for me. That was a lot to go through for any promoter. Terry, she works in our office, his wife, and then, we had the Hampton Heat the very next week. So, it was a very long week, something, I'll never forget being a part of.
Unfortunately, it brought me back to Dale Lemons.
Yeah.
And that same feeling.
Obviously when Dale passed away, I think I was 13 years old. And I had just started go-kart racing at Langley, so I had never even seen a Saturday night event there. And didn't know it happened until my dad called me up from my bedroom and said, this was on the news. So I never knew Dale. I know his son Chris. His granddaughter Riley was actually our social media intern this year, so that was kind of a cool deal to have in place. But, it was really hard. There's no way to get training on that. There's no way to know how you're going to react till you're in the moment. And it was definitely one of the most surreal things I'll ever be a part of in my whole life.
Yeah. But overall, from our standpoint, me and Brandon sitting outside. Brandon did work for you a couple times.
He did.
That was
Thank you, by the way.
much fun.
But from our perspective, even though you're handed that big pile of poop, I think in the long run, the season could be considered a success. You got through it.
Yeah.
And you hosted races. You did the best you could. There are, like my boss, he was in a position where he just said, I'm just not going to do it. There are other tracks across, Langley, Austin, down at Franklin County. He goes, everybody's complaining about 2020. He goes, I hate to see it stop. It's been very successful for them out there.
Yeah, overall, when you consider everything that was thrown at us, it was a very good year. We were able to get full seasons in for every division at the racetrack. Gave an opportunity for everyone to have a place to race, which, a lot of people didn't have that. Yeah. With so many tracks closed across the state.
Had lots of late model guys show up.
We had lots of late model guys. Wish I could have had a few more, but, those are circumstances that are always different for each race, but definitely had a good showing for the most part. But, I was very happy with our car counts in the support divisions. There was a lot of things we've been working on there for a few years, really, trying to build up car counts in certain divisions, like, especially our U-Car division, our trucks division. Those saw massive increases in car count this year, so I was very happy with that. And, I feel like we were able to get some momentum going. I was able to get a year under my belt, make all my mistakes, come out into 2021 a lot better, knowing what we needed to do as a facility and as a racetrack. And, I'm pretty excited for next year, and, I will call it a success, Technically, I had 15 sellouts this year. No promoter in the history of Langley can say that. And as I said to someone else before, I said,
you need to make it like your Twitter bio.
Look, pay no attention to the massive asterisks beside that claim. Yeah. I still got it.
But speaking of 2021, you guys have released your schedule.
Yep. Looking at it right now.
Yep, we have.
Did you make any changes for next year? Additions, subtractions of races, and what kind of the things that you learned in 2020 are you going to apply to this 2021 schedule?
Well, schedule-wise, we didn't learn anything.
Fair enough.
we were just pounding out as many races as we could in the shortest period of time. I mean, we had some nights that had 10 or 11 races, which is just stupid.
And I was there for one of them.
You did do one of them. I mean, normally you would want 5, maybe 7 races in a night. Sometimes you do 8 if you had a bunch of short twins. But to do 8, 9, 10, 11 is just insane. And, you know, that was just a product of this year trying to get things in. So really, you know, looking at the schedule, the idea is to try and balance out your divisions with your car counts and kind of go from there. You know, you have minimum races that you have to meet per NASCAR's points for national points. So you have to reach that with things like your late models and your modifieds. And then from there on out, you know, you're just kind of trying to get everyone in as much as you can. So really couldn't take a whole lot scheduling wise from 2020. Basically, the 2021 schedule is kind of, for the most part, is the 2020 schedule originally. We did make a few changes. Normally, what now is the Sean Beluso Memorial 100 was normally just a 100 lap modified race at the end of the season. But since obviously that is a whole different animal now, we decided to give it its own night off of championship night.
Gotcha.
And that'll be in August. That was really the biggest change schedule-wise. Otherwise, it's pretty standard for what we've been doing the last few years.
The reception and reaction to that race, just based on, I didn't get to attend it, but based on the social media, what I saw on it was really, really great.
It was. I don't remember a car count for the modifieds as big as that. I believe we had 25 and then 24 started the event. Had a lot of out-of-town guys. We honestly had a lot of out-of-town guys that were going to come that didn't because they wanted to run aluminum heads, and we didn't have that rule in place. And we decided, since this event this year was going to be a points race and there was a championship online, we didn't want something like out-of-town guys with a different engine to come in and possibly muddy that up. So it's something we're looking at for next year as a possibility. But, you know, we were really happy to, you know, have the success of the event. Obviously, it was also a very emotional event. But, you know, it turned out well. I think it'll be a great annual thing moving forward. And, you know, I'm excited to see what happens in August next year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, we gotta move on a little bit because I got Tyler Crossnoe. All right.
Oh, you got him.
No, not yet. But we gotta go. We got a guest before him. You know what time it is, right?
Now I do. I figured it out.
We've missed him a couple of weeks.
I know. No, I've been talking to him about some stuff. Well, we can't talk about what that is yet.
No, we can't. But I know about it too.
Are we in Pee-wee's Playhouse?
No, we're not.
No, we're not. We're in story time with Randy Hallman. How you doing, Randy?
Hey guys, how are you? What's going on?
Just another day in Richmond.
That is true.
Welcome to our Friendsgiving edition of the Race in Virginia podcast.
It's good to be here, and I'm just thankful for we're all still upright, and you know, there's another season on the horizon.
All right, we got a good story. We kind of had to bag on it a couple weeks ago, so
we did. We're going to
talk. It is still relevant here.
Yeah, still relevant. We're talking Benny Parsons.
Sure. Benny's always relevant. It doesn't matter when you talk about him. He's one of the most beloved racers that's ever been passed through NASCAR, and his championship was one of the most popular and most unlikely. And that's what I wanted to talk about. I got to thinking about it at the end of this season. It was a dramatic finish yet again to the NASCAR season. Chase Elliott came through when he had to at the end, won 3 of the last 5 or 6 races, and was able to advance and win the championship. And Benny's championship came in 1973 in a totally different point setup. There's been several over the decades, and Benny won that championship in 1973 with one victory in the 28 race season. And we've talked about that before. I quizzed you guys once about how many times did Benny finish in the lead lap in that 28 race season in which he won one race. He won at Bristol. And the answer is He finished in the lead lap one time. The race he won at Bristol, the only time. But that was back in the day when plenty of times, many, many times, the winner would lap the field, or only 2 or 3 cars would be in the lead lap. So Benny was pulling down top 5 finishes steadily, and his consistency had him at the top of the standings. And here was the rub on that. NASCAR, it was a one season only at this particular point setup. And NASCAR had wanted to make it so winning races was a big deal and would get you, would give you the leg up that you wanted in the point system. And so they added, it was like 100 points to win, and it was only like 2 points difference between first and second. And they added on for 1973, 25 points for the winner. Huge bonus. So, okay, that means you're going to have somebody's going to win a bunch of races, and that person will be the championship. Well, guess what? 1973, that was David Pearson's greatest year with the Wood, won 11 races. Well, then he'd be the champion, right? Because he get all those bonus points. Yes, again. He only ran 18 of the 28. So he had too many races where he got no points because he didn't race, and he just completely skewed NASCAR's plan to have a race winner be, a big-time race winner be the champion. So here's David Pearson siphoning off all those bonus points, and everybody else is kind of, get 4 or 5 wins, and Benny's there with 1, and he's the consistent one, and he's on top. So we go to the last race of the year, Rockingham, a mile track down there. Benny's got a lead, but it's not completely safe. And the point system also, besides the 100 points to win and the 25-point bonus, there's a complicated formula for laps run, how many miles you complete, and it's got fractions and all that sort of thing. It's like even more complicated than the one we got now. So Benny just needs to complete most of the laps of the race at Rockingham, most of the 500 laps, and he'll be fine, and he can win that championship. So he gets out there on lap 13, just 13 of the 500. He gets into a wreck. It's like Frank Warren and Johnny Barnes and a couple other cars are involved, and it just tears Benny's car all to pieces, rips the right side off of the car, not just the sheet metal, but the right side of the roll cage is gone, and an axle is broken, and brakes are ruined. And I mean, he's done for. And so we're up there in the press box, we're just looking at it, and we're starting to, we don't even know how the points work, but we're just trying to figure it out and getting somebody who knows to tell us how many laps, who's going to win. Could it be Pearson? Could it be, not Pearson, could it be Petty? Could it be Yarborough? They're the guys who got the chance. And there's plenty of laps left for them to catch and pass Parsons. So we're that's what we're looking at now. Okay, who's gonna get enough laps and get enough points and beat poor old Benny? But while we're doing that, something's going on in the pits. A whole bunch of Benny kind of gets towed in. He can't drive in. He gets towed into the garage, and this is back before anybody ever thought of a 6-minute crash repair rule. You could come back. You could take as long as you needed if you could get back on the track. And not just Benny's team, but a bunch of other teams send people over to help Benny get him back on the track. And there was a car sitting in the garage that had failed to make the race, and they began pulling parts off of that car. And I think Jenny Donlevy's team had somebody there with a welder, and they welded the roll cage pieces, the missing pieces, back into place, and they put in the rear axle, and they found enough parts and pieces, and they put that car back together. And miraculously, Benny comes rolling back out of the garage, more than 100 laps behind, but still there's a lot of laps to go. It takes a long time at Rockingham. The race lasted more than 4 hours. So Benny rolls back onto the track and starts chunking off laps. And every lap is a point and a fraction, however it works. And he gets to the end of the race, and by golly, he has won the thing. He ends up winning it by like 87 points. He'd been like 200 points ahead when he went to Rockingham, and he would have lost it, but he ends up winning by 87 and a fraction points because people like Benny, because they wanted to get his car put back together and give him a chance. So there he was, your new champion, Benny Parsons. And it was, I mean, Benny he was a humble guy anyway, and he was just overcome by the kindness of his friends and the care they showed to get him back on the track. That popped up again to me in 1979. This was the year that Darrell Waltrip and Richard Petty came down to the last gasp. And I think the last race was in Ontario, California, on that track that used to be there. And Darrell went into the last race, a couple of points ahead. Now, this was a different point system, and it wasn't quite as complicated, but he was just ahead of Richard. And I asked Benny, I remember this, I asked Benny before that race, I was remembering at the time that he'd won and he had so much help from the other teams and friends. And I asked Benny if Darrell, who at the time had not become the elder statesman by any means that he was even by the end of his racing career, let alone when he got in the booth, Darrell still had he had ruffled a lot of feathers in 79. He'd been there in the tour about 7 years, and he was aggressive, and he was, he didn't mind giving people a hard time with things he said. And so he had ruffled some feathers. He was Jaws. He wasn't the friend of all that many people. Meanwhile, Richard Petty is like everybody's big favorite. So I asked Benny, I said, all right, suppose Darrell has trouble. Suppose Darrell needs a good break on the track from somebody who's racing against, somebody who might race him a little hard or not so hard. And suppose Richard needs help. Who's going to get the help? I mean, I figured I knew the answer, and Benny kind of verified it. He said, "Well, nobody's going to really try to decide the championship, but Richard does have a lot more friends than Darrell." Well, I don't think it mattered all that much because I don't think Darrell just didn't have the car wasn't right that day. They'd gone too conservative, and they ran. They were a lap down and in 10th or 11th, something like that. Richard finished 5th and won the championship by 11 points. Very narrow win. But it was, it was 5th, and there were several cars in the lead lap, and maybe they were a little easier on Richard, and Richard did get to lead a lap early, which was worth 5 bonus points. And, maybe it was just a little easier on Richard that day. I don't think it mattered, but the factor was there. And what it tells me is there's always been that. Nowadays, we've got team members and drivers of the same manufacturer. All the Chevy drivers work together, all the Ford drivers work together, all the Toyota drivers work together, and you work together even more if you're on the same team. But there's always been that, who do you like? And there's an effect that it has a impact on the outcome of race after race. You get down to it, and you race hard against some people, and you don't race so hard against other people. It's just the way of human nature in racing and everywhere else. Anyway, Benny's championship was one of the great stories of my whole time on the beat, and still one of the great stories of NASCAR.
And yeah, nobody's going to help Darrell. Listening to the Dale Jr. download and listening to some of the stories from Darrell Waltrip, I think he also knew no one was going to help him.
Mm-hmm.
he rubbed some people the wrong way, and Benny Parsons, total opposite. I think everybody laughed.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because that 1979 championship, Benny won that race.
Yes, he did. Yeah, yes, he did. It was a little ironic twist there. Benny finished first in that final race.
Yeah.
Out there.
Can you imagine? I don't even that couldn't even happen today because you got the 6-minute deal.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. That's the thing that I took away from that story is because I started watching NASCAR back in the early '90s, and you still had that element of it. If a car got in a wreck, they would still points race. So even if they were 200 laps down, they would come back without a hood, without the front fenders. You'd
Looking
tape
like
the
a
number.
modified.
You'd tape the number on the door, and you'd get as many points as you could possibly get. I liked that. I liked watching those junked cars out there making laps. I thought it was fun.
I did too. I had mixed feelings sometimes. Sort of depends on, if your favorite guy is out there.
Sure.
Well, and some guy comes out with his fenders barely hanging on and gets in the way or causes a caution flag when you didn't want it, then you don't like it. You say, they should never let these cars back. But yeah, I did too. I mean, and as you, I'm sure, remember, and I'm not sure of the years when this happened, but there was a stretch there where the best teams were prepared to change the engine.
Yep.
And they could. Junior Johnson's team got to the point where it could change the engine in 15 minutes and get Cale Yarborough back out there. And I mean, the kind of thing that's, I mean, it's not a factor anymore. First of all, you're not allowed to change the engine, even if you could do it in 3 minutes. It's just not. It's against the rules. But as we've pointed out, nowadays you've got that. I don't know what it is. Is it 6 minutes now?
6-minute clock.
Yeah. And if it takes you longer than that to make your repair after a crash, you're done for. You don't get to come back.
Randy, I want to, since this is Friendsgiving episode here at the Racing Virginia podcast, I wanted to ask you, even after a tumultuous 2020 season and year, what are you thankful for?
Well, I wrote a column. You can check it out at Racing Virginia.
It's a good segue into that.
Yeah.
Yes, they're wonderful. And I did write what I'm thankful for. And yeah, I mean, boy, what a miserable year in so many ways. But I started out with, I'm thankful that Ryan Newman is still racing. It almost seems like that was years ago, but that first race of the year, Daytona, Ryan's crash was the scariest one I've seen in many years. And it took so long for us to find out that he had even survived. And then we thought, well, he survived, but how bad is it going to be? And then 2 days later, he's walking out of the hospital
With no shoes on.
and when they,
Yeah.
and when they come back to race after the pandemic pause, he was in the car, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm also thankful we had a season.
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of weird because with Ryan Newman, the one thing that saved him was the piece of a roll bar that he talked NASCAR into putting in it.
That's
in
right.
The car.
The Newman bar. That's right.
So
That's right. Yeah, and so many. I think, man, you look at that crash, and darn near every safety element that they've come up with in the last 20 years came into play.
Mm-hmm.
The head and neck restraint, every bar, every piece of a safer barrier. Yeah, I mean, it all had to be there. Really incredible that he came through that crash with no further injuries than he had.
Well, Randy, we're thankful for you. Schooling us and giving us knowledge.
I'm thankful you guys indulged me.
Anytime, Randy, anytime.
Thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I'll see you next time.
Man, I'm going to tell you what, it is fun to hear history.
Yeah.
From someone that has covered the sport for so many years, many years.
I think it was pretty neat that you could find some parallels with what happened in this year's championship season with even what happened back in 1972.
History repeats itself.
Absolutely.
Oh, Friendsgiving edition is rolling on.
Were we having dinner after this? Is that how this works?
Didn't he lose the temperature bet?
Yeah, he lost.
I did.
So let everybody know, Dave and I have a contest. We have to take our temperatures before each podcast when we come into the office. And I normally win. I'd say about 65% of the time or so. So Vaughn lost the temperature bet. He had the highest temperature
he has to
of
buy
all
lunch.
things.
By 0.1. 0.1. I left the heat on in my car longer.
Yeah.
0.1, it doesn't matter. You still lost.
All right.
It's
Dollar
like
burgers across the street.
It's like a tenth on the track. If you lose by 0.1, you still lost by 0.1.
Well, we're going to roll on with our Friendsgiving edition of the Racing Virginia podcast. And to do that, we need to bring on our next guest. He is the vice president of Virginia Motorsports Park and the PDRA series. He is Mr. Tyler Crossnoe. Hey, Tyler.
What's up, guys? How are y'all?
What's up, man? Brandon thinks I have a man crush.
I said fanboy. He's a Tyler Crossnoe fanboy. He admires your work, sir.
Yeah, we talk about you every week, Tyler. I don't know if you.
That's scary. I don't. And it's not scary for the fact of that. It's scary for, I guess, the expectation level over there is not as much as I thought it was.
I've talked to Brandon about this and some other folks. I really never understood the amount of work that goes in preparing a drag strip. And watching your social media channel and VMPs, there's so much work that goes into preparing the track, and it comes down to humidity, temperature, all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah. It's funny. Some of my guys are out right now getting the racetrack ready for our season finale this weekend. We've got a big money bracket race that's kind of been just a staple of the VMP schedule for I think 8 years now, and that closes out our 2020 season, and we put on 3 $10,000 to win bracket races if weather allows. We're starting on Tuesday and we don't race until Friday, so it's definitely a lot of work goes on behind the scenes that many people do not know anything about.
Now we've talked to you a couple times about the season, leading up to the season. Kind of in not a long explanation, but kind of give us an idea of how 2020 ended up for VMP and your staff.
Of course, it was trying. One thing that we kind of agreed on whenever everything shut down, and then all of a sudden there was a soft open, and then they started letting us do little bits here and there. The one thing that we all agreed on here was let's not work more than a month out. Just because of, hey, you don't know when the phone call is going to come of, oh, hey, nice track, but you're parked again. So we just decided, let's work on events in a 4-week span. That way we don't spend a bunch of time on something that's 3 months out. Oh, and then you get the phone call that it never can happen. That was a very, very hard deal for us, just because you never felt like you were like, I can get ahead. I can go take a day off. You never felt good about leaving the racetrack. At least I did. Because I always felt like, well, there's a bunch of stuff that needs to be done because we only got 2 weeks before this big event of ours. But at the end of the season, I mean, I have to say I can't be any happier with everything that was thrown at us as a business, as a motorsports entity, as anything that falls under the banner of Virginia Motorsports Park. There were so many curveballs that were thrown at not only us, but everybody in motorsports. And for us as a facility in our area of Virginia, for everybody that was able to open this year, I really just feel like it's anything at this point is a success.
What was the biggest thing that you learned out of all of this that even when we get back to normal, that you all can apply to a normal year?
We streamlined a lot of processes that were in common terms that were payroll heavy. That we decided, hey, look, we're limiting income this year due to all these restrictions. We've got to limit expense, and I learned a whole lot of just, hey, why weren't we doing that before? Like we didn't slow down production at all. and we just lowered expenses by 20%. Okay, why in the world were we not doing that before? Really opened my eyes to kind of creating backup systems for things. That way, if something happened, okay, you never even have to stop. You got another option. One thing that we did that really was a kind of a hard deal for some people to understand, but others have just jumped onto it, and it's been a really big deal, is the paperless time slip program that we do on our cell phones now. And every run that's recorded down the racetrack goes into this database, and then you can search your car number that's unique to every car that races with us. And all of a sudden, your last 10 runs will pop up on your phone. Well, for anybody in the drag strip world, you always see the guy in the staging lanes that has 14,000 time slips stuffed in his pocket, and he's trying to figure out what was his last run, or when did I run last in these conditions, and it's just a mess. And that's been really a positive for a lot of the younger crowd. Has really liked it due to there's so many times where just you run out of paper at the time slip printer, and 2 pair don't get printed because of you run out of paper. Well, it's okay. Now you just pull your phone up and search your number instead of, well, I got to go all the way to the tower, write it down, give it to them, all that type stuff. And now that just kind of eliminated that question mark. On some events, we don't even open time slips. We run events now solely on the app on our phones, and that just cuts expense from a business standpoint and takes an employee that, instead of sitting in a building for 12, 14 hours a day, we can put them being a suite host, helping somewhere else where they're more adapt to the business and actually use that employee to the fullest of their potential, instead of sitting down in a booth handing out a piece of paper all day.
We got Vaughan Crittenden here too, from down at Langley. You guys know each other by any chance?
I know.
I heard the name.
But
That's scary. Oh no.
I wanted to ask Vaughan in that same vein too. Did you learn some of the similar things? I know with like paperless ticketing and other things like that you did the same at Langley.
Yeah, we did. For us, most of our crowd was always a walk-up crowd. No one really bought tickets online. We always had the ability, but no one ever did it. So for us, a big learning curve for us this year was trying to really push our fan base to buying tickets ahead of time, especially with there being a limited capacity. We couldn't guarantee there was going to be any at the track, and all but 2 weekends the whole year, we sold out before we even got to the track on Saturday. So that was the biggest thing for us. And obviously, with not having to worry about selling tickets on Saturday, we were able to cut back on payroll because you don't have ticket windows open. You're just selling pit passes, and then the rest you're just scanning in. But Tyler, we actually sent a few cars out your way this past week, and we had our Drift Club show up and join you guys.
Yep. Yeah, we had a pretty cool little show here last Saturday. That was a nice little deal, and pretty neat to see them. I know they did this last year as well, but their last event of the year with us, they always run late into the night. We turn the pit lights on, and they get out and have a good time under the lights. It's a different show. I mean, for us, it's like, somebody's playing around in our parking lot. And we've had to take things like that into effect as well, as far as, okay, that could even happen with no fans. I mean, that could be as close as a testing rental for some of our racetracks. And looking at alternative ways to bring in income was another way that we've just kind of sat down over this whole year and been like, okay, what can we do in December, January, February when we can't drag race?
I was going to say,
and I think that's a key standpoint for a lot of motorsports companies as far as figuring out alternative ways to use our facilities.
Yeah, because I mean that's what we do. We've been doing here at Richmond Raceway. We use the parking lot as a drifting place. We hold other events here, but in terms of what you learned from this year in holding these other events that you might not have otherwise, what can you take into 2021 as you move forward?
Just as he said about the ticketing program, we've done that as well. We've had that in the past and done really well with some events. Our monster truck event in the past has been a huge pre-sale, but getting the fan base used to buying online, I really feel like that puts a business in a better standpoint, because this day and age, people are so, man, I got $20 in my pocket. What the heck can I do with $20? Instead of going, hey, why don't I hang on to this and actually, could actually build this into 40 or 60 or whatever. It's like, I got a $20 bill and I need to spend it. Like, what can I do? And for us as motorsports entities, if we can be out there 24/7 promoting tickets to an event 6 months down the road, and somebody goes, man, that looks cool, I'm going to buy a ticket. Boop. Hey, we got your money. Thanks for playing. Appreciate that. We'll see you in 6 months.
Get their money while you can.
Yes, and I feel like that's a huge deal this day and age because everything is so now. And if they're like, man, that looks cool, I'd like to go to that. And if they see a link right at that point where they have the thought of, I'd like to go to that, man, let me go in and get my tickets. Maybe they have a deal or maybe I get it cheaper or something like that. And it seems like that's a huge selling point with people these days. And then you incorporate the touchless programs into it and the scanners when they come in. Then the people that are worried about that kind of stuff, then we adhere to that box that they can check off, and then you move on and have a great day at the race.
Yeah, and for us, a big thing for a great benefit we got from doing those online tickets is we were actually able to obtain a lot of information about our fan base that we just didn't know before. Before, you always had an idea, well, I think most people coming from this area and that area, but now we really got a true snapshot of where our fan base is located. And, that helps for going after sponsors, going after, advertising strategies, where you want to market. So, all that information is great to have, too, that helps you really figure out, where you need to push in the future.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, and it's all about data acquisition with stuff like that. I mean, we all spend thousands and thousands of dollars every year on radio ads, TV ads. And with our traveling series, we had a very large promotional business that we went through and all that. And it was like, you know what? I just never really felt like we were spending the money in the right place. And this year we actually cut our entire advertising budget with radio, TV, anything, and just said, you know what? Social media, website, do the best you can. Try to keep your head above water and just enjoy what you can get. And when we sat down at the end of our World Finals last month and looked at our overall season numbers, we might have been down 3 to 4%.
Yeah, that was a spot we saved a lot of money too. Was not doing advertising at all. That saved us. Probably $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 when you looked at the end of it.
Yep, 100%. And for a year like this, that's a ton of money.
It is. For us, that would be, roughly holding 3 or 4 events for us, when it come out to, especially when you have a limited crowd, because, you have a limit. And when you already know you're reaching it week out, week in and week out, there's no need to do it.
And I think a lot of people have learned now, for us, we've all obtained data on the fan that's coming to us. So now we have our core customers' data off of these ticketing programs. Well, then we take that into web email blasts and ticket giveaways and stuff like that through the data we already have. Well, now you're not even worried about trying to general promote to your core fan because now you have that hook with them. Now you're just trying to build your fan base, and then you build that in a new market or you try to hone in the market that is traveling to you, and just knowing that data and knowing where to spend the money now, it's a complete different ballgame. Instead of, well, I think this will be a good radio station. Let's see what happens.
Too fractured nowadays. There's just too many of them.
Oh, that's okay.
Back in the day, fractured. Too many.
You're really trying to go after that point there, aren't you?
I was sitting here
there's just so many. And to be honest with you, you throw in Sirius XM, Spotify, Apple. Apple Music. I mean, who's really listening, right?
It's like
nowadays?
how and to radio advertising, you can get listenership, but you can't get a real gauge on who bought tickets based on hearing your radio ad
or how many actually heard your radio ad.
Well, I can tell you, right off the bat, before this was all happening, we were already at Langley looking at advertising on Spotify, and taking a good chunk of our radio budget and moving it that direction for, it's the same thing for TV. Yeah. We were looking at doing stuff on Hulu.
Right.
So, really just trying to, because there's a huge section there that's been chunked off from the television and radio audiences that, you used to get a good value for a spot, but really it's all over the place now, and you've got to plan accordingly. You got to do YouTube advertising. You got to do Google. I mean, you got to go all over the place now.
Yeah,
and let's be honest, that's the market we're all trying to get.
Exactly.
That's the
demo. Yeah.
That's the young market that everybody in motorsports is sitting down right now going, how do we get the young person involved in motorsports? And it's not through 94.1 FM. It's through, I mean, I can't tell you the last time I got in a vehicle and said, man, I'm going to tune into local radio. What?
Yeah. And
no,
just think,
it's Sirius or XM or whatever.
And think people who are 10 years younger than us are even less likely to do that. They are plugging in their phones.
Yes.
They are doing different things. They're listening to podcasts.
Hell, I'm over 10 years older than you guys, and I'm plugging into an iPhone podcast.
So, yeah.
So I mean, it just finding new ways to advertise to your customer is always a positive. Mm-hmm. And that 2020 kind of made us have to do those kind of things. Speaking of your upcoming year, 2021, I noticed you guys have some really good events, some new events, and you guys are, still a work in progress, but NHRA coming back.
Yeah, we had a conference call yesterday with them, and they're excited to come back. That program took a pretty big turn this year for NHRA, and they had to make changes themselves. Internally, I know they made a lot of personnel changes and made some product changes as far as purses and purse structures and the way the races were run and all of that. And we're really excited to have NHRA back. That's a staple on a calendar for any drag strip that can have that. There's only 24 national events. Well, there's 22 or 23 now, going into 2021. And to be one of those tracks that gets to host an event is very special for us. The only national event in the state of Virginia, and we really look forward to having NHRA back in June next season. Tickets actually go on sale this week, so it's funny. We've been having the ticket conversation, and that was what our call was yesterday. Our tickets go on sale this Friday, so it's wide open, and it's funny. People don't even think about it. I mean, we're in November, that event's in June, and I bet over half of my days the last week and a half has been NHRA. Mm-hmm. And okay, we got to do this. We got to get ready. And can you get ahead on this and get a better rate? And it's a 24/7 race that you have to be on top of all year long to be able to pull off everything that you want to do in a 3-day span.
And that national event is a different animal from anything that you'll put on all year long, with the security and protocols and everything that has to go into it. But man, once it comes together and once you see the finished product, man, it is so worth it to see that event come together.
Oh, it is. And it's kind of funny looking back on the reasons why I actually moved here. This was part of the reasoning. And it's just like, when you can be at the helm of a facility that's running an NHRA national event, there's no greater calling card for a product at that point. All your signage, all your sponsorships, they all gain exposure. It could be a small company that's local to the facility, or it could be a company as big as Summit Racing Equipment or O'Reilly's, and they're on the national stage for 3 days on FS1 and sometimes even on the Fox network. And to put the companies that put their trust in us on that stage for 3 days and give them, you can see upwards of 12,000 to 15,000 fans a day at that thing. And it's just, you can't even really speak of it. I mean, I stood on top of the tower Saturday at the first one that I was at 19, and I just stood there for about 5 minutes, and finally, I guess Tommy was like, "What in the world are you doing?" And I was like, "Just taking it in, bro. I'll be back in a second." But it was. You just have to take a moment and stop, and just enjoy it. Because, like we were saying, when you work on this thing all year long, and you can get lost in these things. and you're out hustling, and you need ice at a drink outpost, or NHRA needs something done, or vice versa, and you're running around the whole weekend. Then you never sit back and go, "Hey, man, we're hosting a national event here," and you can be done with the weekend before you ever know it. Then go, "Oh, well, now you just got to go back to normal life after that. You didn't even get to enjoy the thing."
Yeah, you got to soak it in, and like you said, it's November, but it'll be here before you know it.
It will, and that really opened my eyes the first year of, you have to have meetings with DOT and VDOT, and then you got to get the county involved, and there's all the safety side of it, and there's so many working parts to that event. We use every acre of the place for parking. So just on the facility side, whereas most of our drag racing events, we could focus, hey, look, don't worry about, you don't have to mow the grass in the dirt park this week. It'll be okay. You can at that one. You have to mow every blade of grass, because if you can park a car on it, you need to park a car on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I came as a fan there last year in 2019, and it was absolutely phenomenal. And next year, I'm gonna be back because it's so much fun.
We definitely are looking forward to it. It's a fun event. It's one of those events you can talk about all day long, but until you experience it and feel the power that those cars have, and see something moving down a racetrack and covering 2 football fields at over 300 miles an hour in less than 4 seconds, it's unimaginable until you actually view that in person.
All right, couple things. We're working to get Matt Hagan on. Okay, so we'll try to prep the June race here, because it's kind of his home track.
Yeah, talk to the champ.
Talk to the champ. And,
world champ Matt Hagan.
Yeah, let's not forget that.
Yeah. Now, and I got to ask you, what is your, when you hear the name Larry Spider-Man McBride, what are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts? That man is insane.
We can both agree.
That is the most impressive. That is the most impressive two-wheeled rider I've ever seen in my life. I've actually had the pleasure of seeing Larry go down a racetrack, and God bless it. It's an astounding moment that is, for me, I've seen the safety side of racing so much. I'm like, oh gosh, this could be bad. But then when it's all perfect and he goes down the racetrack and goes 5 seconds, 200 and something miles an hour, that's way too fast on 2 wheels. It's like, oh man, that was awesome. Yeah. And I'm sitting there with my stomach in knots going, oh gosh, I hope nothing happens.
This past weekend, he went over 295. Set another world record.
He came to Langley one time and fired that thing off on pit road. Of course, it's not that long a pit road. He basically burped it, but it still sent a shockwave through all of us, man. That was something else.
Well, for the fans out there, cross your fingers. We'll hopefully have him next week on the show. So, but yeah, after seeing
Larry's a good guy.
After he set a new world record down in Georgia this weekend, he's just crazy. The way he moves around on top of the motorcycle while it's going down the track, just to keep it going straight. Yeah. It's just that. I mean, obviously that's why they call him Spider-Man. So how he hangs on, to me, you would have to be strapped down, to that bike to stay on. I know.
Yeah, I'd be trying to stay on to it, much less trying to steer it.
Yeah, I know if I was on it, I'd hit the gas and the bike would go first, and I would be left at the start line.
I don't know how much money it would take to get me on one of those things going half that fast down a drag strip, but it would have to be a lot.
True.
I'd do it for free.
What'd you do?
I would jump on it right away.
You are
no way.
I've ridden motorcycles before, and I'm not sure I would get on one. But the drag racing community, I mean, it really it took a hit this year all over. I mean, even NHRA. How would you like to be NHRA, where you got a national sponsor that calls you and says, "Guess what? We're not going to stick around." I mean, that's what happened in 2020. Those are the kind of things that happened in 2020. Yep. But on the flip side, they had a sponsor come up and take over. Is it Camping World?
The Camping World NHRA series, or NHRA Camping World Series, which is the national series, and Marcus Lemonis just likes to invest his money into motorsports.
That dude loves racing, no matter what it is.
Yeah,
He does, and it's an excellent partnership for NHRA. I mean the Mellow Yellow and the Coca-Cola deal was great, and it was a long-standing partnership.
Mm-hmm.
But look at the form of motorsports and this is motorsports in general.
Yeah.
Look at how many campers are sold
Yep.
that pull into a gate, whether it's round track, dirt track, motocross, drag racing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. There's an immense amount of RV sales that happen every year, not only on the racer side, but just for the spectator side.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like if you see a bracket race, a lot of those, the bigger, drivers who do those, they have their own campers. They have their own RVs. And then you couple that with all the fans that camp at the, either the NASCAR National Series races, NHRA, and what have you. Like it's a perfect partnership.
Well, yeah.
And Marcus has already been very, very influential in things that are there. You can see a difference in NHRA just on the marketing side, and seeing the difference in just the social media marketing side. There has already been a good movement to the positive for the partnership with Camping World and NHRA.
Yeah, I don't care who you are, but you can say what you want about the motorsports fan base, but they spend some money on RVs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we ain't talking cheap RVs.
Mm-mm.
They go all out. I mean, looking.
Oh, yeah, you got to be sure to beat the buddy next to you. Come on now.
That's about right. So everybody can go to racevmp.com to see the full schedule. Any other notable events?
Yeah, but we've got a full plate of events. We're actually working on our schedule now. 2 PDRA national events come back to Virginia next season. The Shakedown event comes back, the small tire race that's very popular. And then for 7 years before I moved here, I actually individually promoted an event called the Outlaw Streetcar Reunion, and it was a small tire event. In 19, we actually kind of pulled the plug on it and said, look, I'm going to take a step back. I have too much on my plate. And then at Shakedown this year, I kind of got a renewed vigor and said, this is fun. Why are we not doing this more than once a year? So I'm actually bringing back my personal event, the Outlaw Streetcar Union. It'll be at Virginia as well. So we'll have that in April, and then Shakedown will be back in September. Have the Street Outlaws event in March. That'll be a huge spectacle for spectators that love the television series and all the stars that come with that. And the schedule just goes on and on. I could sit here and talk about it for an hour, but I don't want to bore you guys with details.
We'll have you back on. We'll cut it into pieces. You can talk at like 30-minute increments. How about that?
That'll work. You guys know I'm always in.
Yeah. So as it is our Friendsgiving episode at the Racing Virginia podcast, I wanted to ask you, and we're going to ask everybody, what are you thankful for in this tumultuous 2020 year?
Thankful for family, thankful for friends, and thankful to have a sport that's still alive that I've put my life in, and glad to still see the sport as strong as ever. Coming out of a hard 2020 and heading towards a 2021 that is for sure to still have obstacles, but for sure to also still have a lot of people that are involved in the sport that love it and want to see it grow.
Well, we can't thank you enough for taking some time out of your schedule to visit with us, Tyler. It's always great to talk to you, and we're going to look forward to talking to you again in 2021. That's
right, guys. Well, if we don't get to talk before then, you all have a great, happy Thanksgiving and a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
You as well, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Man, what a great guy. It really is. He is. I mean, just a great guy.
And again, like we talked about it before, but the passion that he has for his sport and for the track is unparalleled.
You have to have it, though.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't do it.
Look,
Exactly.
You thought you put in a lot of hours.
I don't even. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try and jump in that contest.
Yeah, but you're right. Like it is a tough, time-consuming, very unique, business that we're all in different aspects of it. And if you're somebody that comes in and you don't know motorsports, you got to learn it. And if you don't love it, you better learn real quick, or you're not going to enjoy it. And the people who do really love it really succeed.
Now, Vaughan Crittenden, major events at Langley Speedway, and tell everybody where they can find the rest schedule.
All right, let's see how good I can rattle these ones off. All right. March 13th, Spring Day of Destruction. April 3rd, opening night. May 15th is our Armed Forces night. And if it's all wide open at that point, the idea is that we're going to have hopefully 5,000 men and women from all the branches of the military represented for that one.
Very cool.
So that's going to be a cool night. We got a lot of things we're working on for that. And then Cars Tour comes back June 5th. Fireworks will show up on July 3rd. Hampton Heat, July 17th. Shambhalooza Memorial, August 21st. And then our championship nights will be October 9th and 16th. And then we've got 2 monster truck shows thrown in there as well on Memorial Day weekend. And then the other one, I believe, will be September 25th and 26th.
Let's just cross our fingers.
I was close, right?
Oh, you had everything.
It's 24th and 25th.
24th and 25th.
Yeah, 25th, 26th was last year.
I think as accurate as that was, we'll give you a pass on the
All
one
right, it's
day.
good. Yeah. And obviously the Fall Day of Destruction follows the championship weekend on October 23rd.
For you, Vaughn, as we've asked all the other guests, what are you thankful for?
A couple things. One, thankful for the opportunity to be in the position that I am. As crazy as a year it was, I'm happy I got to be a part of it and happy to lead Langley Speedway right now. And I'm thankful for all the support the track got this year from its fans, from its drivers and teams. This was a year where a lot of places folded up, a lot of places closed, and we were very fortunate to have had the support from the racing community to stay open, and it made it worth our while to do so.
Yeah. Brandon, let's go to you.
I am thankful for still having the opportunity to do what I love to do, talk, work in racing, and be here at my home track at Richmond Raceway and be here with you guys. Racing specific, I'm just ridiculously thankful that after a ridiculous year that we still get to do what we love to do, and that the fan base for racing, as Vaughn said, is as strong as ever and very, very resilient. Thankful for health, thankful for good friends and family, and that the fact that we get to continue to do this on into 2021.
Yeah. For me, I'm thankful for my family, my wife who puts up with the racing business. As you both know, you guys have girlfriends. It is a rough life.
Yep.
And it's a lot of hours that you got to put in. So I got to thank her I'm so thankful that I have her, because she allows me to do this, and she allows me to do the other stuff, the podcasting and all the other stuff to try to help promote this industry. I'm thankful for this show. I really am. When Vaughn and Mike Waddle asked me to be a part of this, I was blessed. This is a great show. Promoting the racetracks, the drivers, the events here in the state of Virginia. This state is like no other. We have the most wonderful fans, and I am thoroughly thankful for them. Look, we didn't race at Virginia Motor Speedway, but fans still check in on our social media and tell us that they can't wait for 2021. So I want to, as we all do, we have to thank the fans. They're the ones that stick around. They're the ones that make it possible for us to do this, because they sit. That's the front gate. But again, I'm also thankful for all the competitors in this state, and then be honest with you, competitors everywhere. Because without them, we have no show. We have no job. They are our partners in crime. And yes, some of them can be a pain in the. But we love them all. We do. We love them all. And I'm just thankful for my health. Thankful for just being able to continue to work, like you said, continue to work in this sport. I mean, we didn't race this year. I still have a job.
Yep.
I'm thankful for the Sawyers, and Virginia Motor Speedway. So, I mean, there's a lot, but, we joke a lot, but, the friendship that we have gained here, Vaughn, getting to know you the first 2 years, Brandon this year. And we've had some pretty good shows from the very beginning, from the very beginning of season 1 to now. We've had some really good shows, and I'm looking forward to 2021 and seeing where this thing can go. Because now it took me 2 years, but we're now on every platform.
That's good.
Every one of them.
Because I kept getting kicked off them.
I have managed to keep us on all of them so far.
Dave's got the magic touch.
So, and just make it easier for our listeners and for you guys out there. I know Brandon and I know Vaughn. He's been on the show quite a bit this year, even though he's not a co-host anymore. But I know we're all thankful for our listeners. We really do appreciate you guys. We appreciate you checking in on social media.
At Racing Virginia, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
On your website.
Oh, it's
Vaughn?
my turn to
Yeah.
plug? Okay, I was just making sure I wasn't
Just
supposed to
making- I
say
was
Racing
pointing-
Virginia.
I was pointing at you.
I was say Langley-Speedway.com.
All right. And of course, if you want to know anything about Virginia Motor Speedway, it's vamotorspeedway.com and at VA Motor Speedway on all our social media platforms. Again, for Vaughan Crittenden, Brandon Brown, I'm Dave C. on this Friendsgiving edition of the Racing Virginia podcast. We can't thank you enough for listening, and keep racing, Virginia.